You may not be able to hear it.
Wow.
I'm going to take it off. Here we go. So we're going live on YouTube now, getting ready for GovSchool this afternoon. I'm going to close this. And I think I'm going to take my earphone out and make it. Well, that's okay. I'll keep it in for this particular presentation today. And so we're getting ready to go live on YouTube, waiting for confirmation. Okay, so we're going to go live now. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start welcoming you into GovSchool this afternoon. We're going to expect a large audience today. So we're going to ask you that you maintain your mute status unless you have a question. And I'm seeing a lot of you already have got that off. So if you don't mind turning that on, it really helps with the background noise. We are live on YouTube as well. If you have any questions on YouTube, please type those questions in. We'll have somebody monitoring the chat there to see if we have. Otherwise, just go ahead and join us on Zoom live, and this will give you the exact same experience, but with a Q&A. And I want to ask again, as you're coming into the room, and as we get set up, just maintain your mute status. It helps everybody out. I will actually place you on mute if you don't, not to be mean or anything, just to help us out with the background. And that way everybody can enjoy it and ask questions and have a good experience today. I would point out that this is going to be a recorded version, so you'll have access to the information as you come into the room, okay, and as you leave this afternoon, okay. Still want to let everybody give them a couple minutes. I think we're going to spend together about 45 minutes together today. So if you have questions, feel free to ask those. There is a nice little feature called hand raising. Just raise your hand. Either do that live with your visual on your video, or you can just use the feature in Zoom. I also encourage you to ask your questions in our chat box. That helps us out as we are. Let's see here. Yeah, making sure that. Okay. Cynthia's typing some things in as well. Letting everybody in. We'll give everybody just an opportunity to get in, and then we'll get started. You know, one thing I always like to do, I think Cynthia and I always encourage you to do that, is drop in that capability statement if you've already got one ready. And let me see if I can get mine in there as I'm letting everybody in the room today. Let's see here, my file, going into my computer. This is just a great way to share about your company, okay? And so I have a couple of them here, and I'm gonna put that out there. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections, and we're here today to help you learn a little bit more about working with governments. And getting so many folks, and sometimes I hope I'm not removing you accidentally as I try to mute you as well. Okay, here we go. I apologize if I do. Tell everybody else about your company, and just to recognize that this is an open channel, so please be aware for privacy reasons. And until it slows down on a number of individuals coming in, we do have a capacity of a couple hundred, so we'll see how many individuals do come in. Okay. I'm just going to slow down just a little bit. There we go. So I want to welcome you here. How are you doing today, Cynthia? You're on the channel with us?
I am absolutely wonderful. How are you all doing, Mark? And how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I just see my image is not showing for some reason. I'm in the office today, and I thought it was, but I've got this on the screen as well. And one of our interns is with us today to learn a little bit. But we're not visually there, I don't think. Okay, but glad to see so many people joining us today. And I think it has slowed down just a little bit. So I'm going to give you your rules. First of all, the first rule is to maintain your mute status unless you have a question. Okay. And this is an open Q&A, so we want your questions. The best way to ask them, of course, is just to drop it into the chat box or to raise your hand. Technically speaking, or also online with just opening up your camera and then raising your hand. I'm still getting folks coming in. I don't want to jump to the start just yet. Okay, this is a recorded version, so be aware anything you say can be recorded, and we won't use it against you, but it could be, I guess. So well, as you learn, we'll know a little bit more about your company. And this is a good time to ask questions about bidding in general. I would point out that this is going to be a double header with Cynthia and I both here online. We both are bringing to the table different skill sets. Cynthia is excelling at her craft. She's one of our primary consultants that we work with specifically in helping with the capability statement. I think everyone recognizes hopefully by now that GovSchool is the channel where we actually work with you to learn and teach you how to win. Okay, and we know that you have questions. Everybody does when they first come to us, and so we want to help you answer those questions. GovAdvice is a micro consulting platform where we bring subject matter experts, really people who are excelling in their craft. Cynthia is one of those. Dr. Harper is, of course, a featured speaker with us. She is the founder of C. Harper Enterprises. It's a woman-owned small business, and she is an award-winning influencer in humanitarian. She can tell a little bit more about herself today, but she is really my go-to person, and I tell her all the time. She doesn't know how valuable she is to our customer base, and we are real grateful to have her here today. So, you want to say a few things, Cynthia, before we get started?
Yeah, I just want to say, guys, I appreciate you first tuning in, and two, having the excitement to be a part of this government market. I can tell you this, there is no losers for anyone who's willing to do this and go through what it takes to win. I really applaud you, because this is a really big step. So congratulations. I'm Cynthia Harper. I love community. I love people. I love entrepreneurship, and I believe that everyone was created for a purpose. And so make sure that what you're working in is something that leads to your purpose or purposeful for your life, because that's where you get your joy from, is when you do things that you really love. Hope Academy's in the waiting room. Hey,
I got them there now. Okay. So here we are today, and the topic at hand is going to be your capability statement. I think a lot of us recognize that that's a really important step to working with local governments and state and federal agencies. I was telling somebody earlier that this capability statement and the demand for those really evolved out of the federal market space. And the primary objective is to make sure you as a company has an equal footing with everyone. Everybody can be uniformly compared, and you're providing the same types of information. So those are driven oftentimes by the department itself. And what we're going to do today is share with you the more generic approach, and also to really kind of how to make your individual capability statement, what I think Cynthia says pop, meaning that it really stands out. But just know that some of the individual agencies do have their own specific formats. I always encourage you. So if you're bidding with, for example, Department of Interior, you might want to go into Google and just do a quick, Department of Interior capability statement, okay? And they're going to tell you exactly the kind of information that you're going to need. And sometimes they even may have a form. That doesn't replace what we're going to tell you today. It adds to it, complements it, okay? And we're going to help you provide the same sort of information because these documents are very important with certain types of contracting instruments. I'm going to kind of continue to give you some information, letting more and more people in, okay? And so that information and giving that information to the government is really important with requests for informations, source of SALT, and potentially requests for qualifications. Those are your primary drivers, but used throughout at every level of government now. They're an acceptable method to broadcast your company so that governments know that you're interested. It is a way that they know you're ready to go. And so they like to see that almost immediately when you initially go in and prepare your SAM registration or for the System for Award Management, but then also when you're working with them directly. So with that said, Cynthia, why don't you take it from there, and I'm going to continue to manage letting everybody in the room. And we have in front of us today, Cynthia's a PowerPoint document that we can make available after as well. but you should be seeing that now.
Absolutely. So how many, by just putting inside of the chat, how many of you actually have already created or working on a capability statement at this time? You could just say, you just raise your hand by saying me. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I see a lot of me. I am wonderful, wonderful. You know, a capability statement, you have to ask yourself, you know, why is it so important, and what is a capability statement? Where it doesn't matter how large or how small you are. If you look at this slide here and you multiply all these numbers together, 5, 3, and 1, that's what, 8, 9, and 2, 11, and 4 is what? Okay, that's just a total. Multiply that times 20. That's about how many people will be bidding against the same bid that you're going after. But it is the award-winning capability statement that opens the door for us to win. So no matter how small you are, no matter how large you are, you need a capability statement. It's essential to your success to win, to hoping that the government will notice you and you will become the approved vendor that they're looking for. Why do I have the little bird on the top? Because it only 1 to possibly 3 people will win that bid. And I want that bid to be won by you. So what we want to talk about today is the award-winning capability statement and what we can do to make it good for you. So let's talk about this. What is a capability statement? You know, this right here gives you a legal definition of it. But honestly, it is your business profile. It is what you need to say, I'm qualified, I'm certified, I'm willing to give this a try. I not only understand what you're looking for, but my company is ready to go with our business resume to hit the ground running to provide services for you. It is so important that you know what your capability statement represents, what it says. As you begin to present it to others and they're reading it, you can absolutely talk about your company. Why? Because it's yours. It's your capabilities that you're offering. It's where you are going to show that you are the subject matter expert. So that's what it is. In short, it's basically your business profile. It's your factual information on the services you offer, and it's what the government needs. It's what the government's looking for. They're looking for capability statements just like yours. What do you want to say about that, Mark?
Well, you know, what I would add to that is the word factual that you used, because that is an important component in making sure everything you say on there is accurate. And that's that's the first technical writing. The first A is B, you know, C is accuracy is so important to be factual.
That's right. Be factual, absolutely. So let me tell you what it's not. It's not a fancy brochure. And if you look to my right and maybe your left, you see all the beautiful colored buildings. Well, that represents corporate America, you know, really robust, very attractive, and that's wonderful. But if you look to my left and your right, you'll see a government building. This is what it represents. It's not the colorful brochure, guys. It's not the information which looks really good on the outside. It is the factual document, generally a one-page document that's not a brochure, that's detailed out by the information that they're looking for. The reason they created it, so they would be able to see line upon line, precept upon precept, the information that you're offering, and they don't have to dig for it. It's something that is obviously right in front of the agency, the partner you're looking to impress, the program manager, the project manager, is exactly what it is. It is not a brochure. It's not beautiful with 50 different colors. It is the colors that represent your environment. It's generally the one-page document. And Uncle Sam has created some specific terminology that's best for you to be qualified to do business in the government market.
You know, Cynthia, you know, when you say one thing that's not is that brochure, because you know where brochures end up in my files in that special file cabinet I have. Okay, so just remember that it's not the brochure because they don't have all that room.
They don't. And so what they're looking for, guys, with your capability, can you speak the government lingo? Do you understand what the government wants? And that's why they have fine-tuned and detailed the capability statements with certain codes and certain data so that they will know that you understand. Listen, we've got a lot of paperwork and there are a lot of people, we have a lot of opportunities to be fulfilled. But what we need is someone like you, which can help us understand our lingo and help us make this easier. And though we know the government is paperwork driven, honestly, this is one of the documents in the government that's fine-tuned and detailed to the perfection. So do you understand the language that they're speaking?
You know, we use this word cloud here. I like the word cloud. That's a great little tool to use whenever you're preparing your capability statement as well. And I can share with you that you want to learn how to use them, because that word, that main word here, the word is language, but that main word, whatever it is for your capability statement, just take every word on your page and on that statement, drop it into a word cloud, see what pops out. That's what it should say something. It should speak specifically to what you do. And it's so important, language in the process of explaining yourself to the government. So make sure you run that kind of tool on your capability statement when you get it finished.
Absolutely. I like what Demetrius just said. This is different for us. And therefore, we don't have to make it flowery. You know, when we put together our resumes, we can sometimes add a little yeast in things and the services that we have provided or the people we've managed. Well, you don't need to do that in the government market. All you need to do is have a goal in mind, and that is to be the missing piece, to be the link, to be the puzzle. Your goal with your capability statement is for them to be able to identify by reading your capability statement. This is the company that we're looking for. They don't have to know that you're a one-man or two-man shop, because with a capability statement, what it does is it gives you the room and the ability to look as though you are as large as the next company. So, and people often get all confused and say, well, I don't have this or that experience. Your goal is to show them in this capability statement that I am the missing link. And even if you don't choose me this time, you know that I exist and you know that I can do the work needed to fulfill this capability.
You know, Cynthia, I think some of our clients here, our members, come to us as a learning process. And so I'm going to start calling out some issues that I have already. Okay. The first thing is when you come into a room like this, make sure your first name and your last name is there. It's very important when you're dealing with the government that you present yourself in a professional way. And look at Bianca Ellis. Look at well, she's done her presentation of her name on the system. I think everybody can see each other. And that's the way you use her as an example. Say, Bianca, if you'd like to send us your email afterwards, and we're going to send you a coffee card for $25 for having such a great presentation of how you look there.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. So let's look at a capability state, almost like when we make a cake. Before we present a cake, we put all the things together, correct? We put everything together. And in putting everything together, you have to lay out what you're needing. So your formatting is important. You need to identify the fonts, the bullets, the word choice, the color, everything which is needed to format your capability statement is very, very important. Very important. You need to make sure that you have, oops, I hit my screen here. Let's get back over here. You need to make sure that you have set up the formatting properly before you start working on it. All the documents that you need should be together. All the information needed should be ready to go. Let's see, Mark, I look like let me go back to my full screen here.
Can you do that? I think everybody's looking at still the full screen.
There we
I have
go.
it in front of me. Good. Okay.
Good. We're good. We're good. So formatting is important, guys. It's very important. Martin, is there any way this can be large? If not, we can keep it moving.
I think yours, it might be on your screen there, Cynthia. These are
okay.
controls you have. So it is large. Okay.
Okay, wonderful.
It's not full screen for you, that? Okay, let me just make sure. I think, okay, everybody, so to give you a tip, go in and The green, it should be like a green symbol. It hit enter full screen. There we go. Okay,
You
and
need
you
to
can do the
select
same for yours.
presentation view. There you go.
Okay, got it.
Mhm. Well, guys, thank you so much for your patience. We're not on slideshow, Mark. I think that's what we're missing. That's what we're missing here.
Okay, so let's just 1 second, stop share. We'll make sure we are. Okay, this is always a technical. There we go. Once again, did it pop back up?
Not full screen, it did not.
Okay, I believe Cynthia that
On your computer, okay? Can you see?
Here we go.
Okay.
We're back in business.
Gotcha. Okay.
There we go. Here we go. So your formatting is your cake. It's you're getting ready to prepare a cake, right? And you're preparing a cake for a wedding, a feast. So you're going to prepare this format in the same kind of way. You need to gather all the documents, everything that you need, so that when you start to create the capability statement, all of the information is handy for you. It's very, very important that you don't add, change, or delete after you understand. If you're going to bake a cake, you're not going to change the recipe in the middle of it, just like that. That's the same with your capability statement. You want to offer the government everything that you know that you have as a service to offer them. So your formatting is very important, very important. Now, really important for the government are the pertinent codes and the certifications. And before I go into all the federal and the state and the local certifications, I want to remind some of us that we have professional certifications. If you notice in the rear, we talk about the PMP, the CPR, LPN, CLC. All of those are professional certifications that we use every day. Project management, CPR, licensed professional nurse, certified life coaches. Those are valuable certifications that you can use on your capability statement. But let's talk about the codes that you must, still not full screen, can see all of your slides on the left. Yeah, it needs to be hit to full screen, Mark.
I hear you, but I think that this is individually controlled. So let's just keep moving on. Let's see. I do see I see the slides. We have to keep the slides on the left there. I see what you're saying. So we do that when we're on Google Drive. Okay. If I go to a full screen, we're going to lose some capabilities here. Let's just go ahead and do that since we're being asked to that. We got so many people still coming into the room. That's one reason.
We really do. Guys, thank you for coming in. We're almost at 90 people, which is a great to see this many people this excited about doing business in the federal space. There you go.
Okay.
There we go. It's loading. So keeping in mind formatting, what's next? Let's talk about your NAICE codes. As it's loading in, your NAICE code is your North American Industry Classification Codes. Is everyone familiar with your NAICE codes? If you've identified your NAICE codes, you are probably halfway through the process of being successful. There you go, Yvette, exactly. Identify your NAICE code so you know what your primary. So remember this, in your NAICE codes, there are a primary, and then there are those who pretty much align itself that make your capability statement strong. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Mark and I worked with a gentleman who had listed one NAICE code. We began to share with him, yes, but that NAICE code has many NAICE codes within that family. If you are providing XYZ service, then you do this for this environment, that environment. So don't narrow your chances of being successful by only having one NAICE code, two NAICE codes. And I always suggest to people, let's have at least 3 to 5 NAICE codes so that the government will know that you're multifaceted in the area that you work in. If it's plumbing, if it's janitorial, if it's transportation, there is more than one thing you do within that industry. Understanding your NIGP codes, those are relative to your success because they help identify for that agency if you understand what they're looking for. Your SIC codes, your PSC codes. All of these are state, federal, and local codes that are imperative on a capability statement. They're imperative, absolutely imperative. Let's talk about certifications. Many people enter into the government market and we don't understand that our certifications identify, it actually puts us in a pool that gives us more credibility. In fact, it makes you more attractive. It takes you out of the swimming pool and puts you in the fishbowl. Let's say it that way. So if you have any certifications, and everyone should have the intention of working on your certification. She says, formatting question, can we use the images? She's got some really good questions. I love that. Should there be a limit to the amount of info we put in each section so it's not yes? You want to make things bulleted. You want to make things sentenced. You want to make things a quick read. So and that's the ideal of a really good capability statement, is not to have too much, but just enough. Understand the corporate codes, understand the professional codes, understand if you are service disabled veteran, if you are SBA 8A hub zone, if you are, WBE, DBE, all of those help you with your chances to win. If you have an acquisition vehicle, for an example, if you're on the GSA, Mark, hit your screen again for me, the button again for me. If you have an acquisition vehicle, such as the GSA schedule, understand that helps you on your capability statement, where you can identify that we offer these products, goods, and services. All of these things are very important. Do you have any CMOS? Do you have a DOD email? Do you understand? You're letting the government know we have done our work. We've qualified, we've certified ourselves. And I tell everyone this, you can do these certifications yourself. They're just time consuming. So because most of us are small businesses, we do generally farm things out so that we can move further in working on our business, because they're time consuming. My suggestion to you, even with registrations, once you complete all of these things on your certification, any certification transportation, like hazmat, absolutely, that's important. You can list that in your differentiators, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Your core, what you're good at. Those things are important. That hazmat is equivalent to a PMP in that industry. So absolutely, anything that strengthens you, if you skill yourself up, they will understand that you're just more than a contractor. You really are a business alliance partner. And that's what they're looking for. Someone they can identify and say, okay, we might not use him for this contract, but we can use him for the next, or let's use him along with the other guy. Or they might suggest that you partner, come into a mentor-protege relationship. But anything you can do that's detailed, yet with fonts, very attractive. I mean, I didn't mean to say font, with bullets, because they need quick reads. They don't have an opportunity to read a book, as we said about the brochures. Talk about the codes, Mark, and the certifications.
I will. Right, we'll slow down just a little bit here for everyone. And thanks for your patience, because the next time Cynthia and I get together, we're going to do a thing on pitch and how to do a nice pitch, because right now work seems to be collapsing, me and you. We're going to practice a little bit more. Okay, this is a newer presentation here, but just to say, this is a good group, and we want you to ask questions. So feel free to type in some questions. We'll slow down just a little bit in our conversation. Yeah. Still have plenty of people coming in the room. And we're running into just some general limitations on a group this size anyway. But, here, one thing I'd like to say is on this one question about, is there too much information? And not just the codes themselves, but whenever the first thing you're trying to do with your capability statement is get the attention of the contractor officer. Okay. It's not to overwhelm with them, with information, but it's to so they pick that up and they look at it. And they basically say, this is the perfect company for this particular service that I'm seeking to bid, or this commodity that seek to bid. So my NAICS code, the North American Industry Classification System code, if you're not familiar with that, get familiar with it. You should have chosen some in your SAM registration. SAM is the System for Award Management. It's only used at the federal level, but NAICS codes are very important when you combine them with set-asides or your certifications over there. So your woman on small business, your economically advantaged woman on small business, your service disabled, veteran as well, or your SBA 8A or HubZone. It's going to be a combination of both the certification and the code. So whenever they look at that capability statement, they need to see what your primary NAICS code is, and they need to see if you got a certification right away. Even sometimes it's even more important than you being able to see your name, but don't bury that information. And so you can bury it when you give too much data, when you get too much information. And so I think we should stress that. That's one answer to that question there. And, can you use images for certifications? Well, as long as the image is not too small. Like Cynthia and I were working with someone yesterday, and they had some images that they just put up there and not necessarily even having the certificate. Like, for example, if you're a small business, you can be self-declared small business, but you may not have the total small business. And I guess there's not necessarily a technical certification for that. Okay. So there is no, you maybe use the SBA small business logo or something like that, but it's more importantly that you speak to that in terms of a word as opposed to an image. Now, the woman on small business is completely different, and you maybe want that image on your capability statement, whereas the other one you may not. Does that answer that question there, Cynthia? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think it does answer that question. And I think they were talking about, even if you're like hazmat certified, if you're sending that to an agency that understands that, because honestly, every contracting officer doesn't understand all of the general or professional certifications. So it's good sometimes to list some things, because they're like you and I, they're growing in what they do. They've not always been in the business for 20 years as a contracting officer. Many have, but you want to make things as simple as you can so that there is no guessing when it comes to what you're qualified to do.
And I see another question. Yeah, I agree. And I see another question there. The similar frame would you use images or maybe the initials or the acronym? I think it's perfectly okay to use the initials for specifically for the certifications like HubZone. They understand what it is. And not only that, whenever you use the initials or you use the acronym, they know that you understand too. And so that's an important part of your capability statement, is to help sell that. If you need to, some of us are brand new when we come to the sector, and we don't have a lot of the materials that we need, the written language that we need. And so using images at that point may be a better idea. And so you're able to use more space on the statement without drawing attention to the fact that you're not giving them a lot of details in written language. Okay, so you go back and forth from that. If you're not sure, ask for some assistance with somebody like Dr. Harper. She knows what she's doing here.
So let's answer the question with Edgar. I love this. When is the next event to meet contracting officers? I think that depends upon whenever that agency is putting together an event. Events are happening all day long. I have a whole team of people in Washington, D.C. right now meeting with contracting officers. So you have to look for those events because they come up all the time in Alabama, Texas, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta. Events occur all the time. But what I want to say to you is look for events on the local level as well, because on the local level, you get to meet with these officers and then go back and meet with them face to face in your own community. So that's even greater, because many times we look for federal contracts when there are state and city and local contracts right before us offering very similar or looking for very similar skill sets, but we've overlooked them. Never overlook working in on the local level first, just to garner the experience.
And I would point out in your RFP delivery system, one of the industries that we have listed is called business events. And then you call the term industries, but it's the type of data that you want to receive. Make sure you have that checked, and we'll always send those to you. So industry days are becoming more and more, you're seeing those more and more now that we've moved really kind of past another stage of the pandemic. And so they're meeting in person again. A lot of these are also online in Zoom meetings. I think there's one coming up with FEMA in Region 4. If you're in anywhere in Region 4, you need to be on the Zoom call next week. I think it's next week or maybe the week after. Look in our system and have that capability statement ready to go. And you're dropping it into the chat box. It's a live Zoom meeting, and you're able to give them some information about your company. Okay.
Absolutely. Mark, I want you to answer this question after I answer this. Yes, you can use a teacher certification as well. Yes, you can. You could be actually a trainer. And so that looks good. Demetria has a really good question. I'm not exactly sure. He says, can I get a Desk Pro to help me to win contracts? What exactly do you mean by that, Demetria?
So sometimes, and you can open up your mic, Dimitri, but I think sometimes you're asking for someone who maybe as a capture manager, helping them. Yeah, you can type that in your question there, but as you get ready to go, the truth of the matter is you're the one who's going to be responsible for winning that contract. As much as anyone else can help you, the government agency is really wanting to work directly with you. Okay. And I stress that you need a guide in the process, maybe someone helping track the bids and track when the bid's coming, helping you prepare your RFP. But when you're talking with them directly, you want to be the one talking to them. Okay. And they will want you to do that. Someone's asking about scheduling a meeting. We'll get to that in just a minute. Would you like to move to the next slide, Cynthia?
Sure. Mm-hmm. So listed here are just some of the main certifications. All of the certifications are relevant to your success, but I want to make sure, because oftentimes there are groups and services that are selling you products and goods and services that are really not related to the federal space. These are the proper addresses and emails. The proper links to look up your NACE codes, PSC codes, your NIG, because I don't want you to get into a situation where someone's charging you for every single thing you're trying to do in the government market. As much experience as I have, Mark pointed out to me a couple of months ago, oh, those people are working on you for a fee. So we listed these so that you will not be confused, because most of the things within the government market, there really are free services, except when you need someone to show you business intelligence, how to present your capability statement. You need a third or fourth set of eyes to look at it and say, take this out, put this in. I mean, the gentleman we worked with the other day had a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing capability statement, but honestly, he had things up there that were incorrect and that didn't properly represent him, and it didn't make him attractive for a contracting officer. As well as it looked to us with the naked eye, it didn't have the proper data. And so that's why we want you to go to the right places to get the right codes to represent your organizations. Will you be sharing this slide deck with the attendees? Yes, Mark.
Yes, we will be sharing. And also I think Cynthia answered the question about us meeting with you one-on-one. You can always book time with her as well as myself. We'll have that information at the end of the presentation, just as a reminder. I want to echo what Dr. Harper just told us about not getting taken advantage of. I get calls all day long, and for folks who say, Mark, I just paid $3,000, or Mark, I just paid $599. If that wasn't a number that would actually scare you away to begin with, you didn't know, because they make themselves appear that they're with the same registration system, or they're with this type of system, and they're not with the government, the federal government at all. In fact, we get broadcast widely that we are not associated with any federal agency or state, local government. We are a private service to help you and guide you. And that's what we try to do. But the first key indicators, always look for the .gov address. If someone's going to email you, it is very rare for the government to reach out to you. Okay, it just really is, unless you're in a mentor type program of something specific, and then you would know it. Okay, and you would know that individual contacting you. Otherwise, it's most likely a commercial outfit, and they will have a .com, a .net, a .org type of website. And so when you're looking for NAICS codes, a common one, if you Google, it's going to take you to NAICS.com. That is not the NAICS system. The NAICS system is part of the census.gov website, and they define industries, and you see there the actual domain name, and it's census.gov/NAICS. Okay. If you have a question about the PSC codes, that's going to be published in Federal Acquisition Registry regulations. It's going to be it's actually at acquisition.gov, but also in the outreach systems there for support. And they have a table there. And that's where they tell you about the various PSC codes and your standard industry classifications and your NIGP commodity code. That is a proprietary system at the local government level, but it's governed by procurement officers in a very legitimate site. And so what Cynthia is linking you to here is one state. So every individual state or local government will use that if they're using those. That is at the local government level. And then UEI, that is the unique entity ID at the SAM.gov registration process. And you will receive that within SAM. And you're not going to expire. Don't worry about expiring. They'll give you enough time. That's a big thing that happens in the process. Let's see here. And so you just know that going into it. Okay. I figured out why I wasn't on camera. Apparently because I'm in this room here. So hi everybody. Okay. And so with that said, know that that you also receive a cage code when you register in SAM if you ask for it, and you also have to register within SAM for the disaster registry, all within SAM, easy enough to use. And they will work with you, and you're not going to be expired out. So that's a common misbelief. So next week we have a class that's called Bidwinked. It's kind of a play on words. Okay, so you don't get hoodwinked in this process. You don't lose money that you don't need to lose. We're on a tight budget, and we kind of give you a whole hour-long session on what to watch out for. So please feel free to join us there.
Rachel, no, it's not a PowerPoint presentation. A capability statement is generally a one-page document. It can be a two-page document, depending upon the version you're trying to release and what they're asking for, but it is not a PowerPoint presentation. However, you can use your capability statement and do three things. It could be a 3-in-1 document, and let me explain this to you. At GovDirections, we use our capability statements, and we just build out a simple website right from the CAPE statement. It's a very simple process, and it's the same material presented differently. The PowerPoint presentation, oftentimes if you are meeting with a team of government contractors and agencies, you need a downloadable PPT. You can take some of the same information from your capability statement, create a PPT, which is a marketing presentation, and use that to offer with those government agencies. And then there's another thing that you can use. There's a capability video, 3 to 5 minutes, the same information, but it's you expressing what you do, the passion behind it, the expertise, and why they should use you, and how much of an expert you are and what you're offering. So yes, it's not a capability statement, is not a PowerPoint presentation, not at all. And this one says, as soon as you're connected with a small business, this is called, they solicit. If yes, please hang up. You're absolutely right, Demetri. You're absolutely right. These are great questions. Is there a sample? Mark will show you some samples before we close out of capability statements. I have an issue registration with SAM.gov. How do you register? Well, SAM.gov has changed, and it does have a lot of complexities to it. We've waited for data for weeks. Mark, you can speak to that. But you must get registered in SAM. It's a process that requires a lot of patience.
It does, and don't give up on it, because there's a slide I always use. It's not here today because we're using Cynthia's, but if it was easy, everyone would do it. So it's designed to be a little bit hard. So make sure just to give you some background. SAM itself, the System for Award Management. Okay, it's just the accounts payable system for the federal government. They're just making sure that you're legit and get you inside there. They want your bank account number, things of this nature, in order to be able to pay you should you win a federal government contract. It's not going to win you a contract. It's not going to send you a contract. It's not going to happen. Okay, all they're doing is getting you ready. You've got to be aggressive on that. So going through there and registering, it's a pretty straightforward process, but you could hit one button wrong, just like when you're setting up your banking account online nowadays. You get one button wrong, and then you could be in a loop for weeks. We've had that happen even from the very get-go. It's a little bit confusing. Hopefully they'll work through some of these issues. It was so much easier to register in FBO.gov in the past, but in the last few years are trying to consolidate, and we're hoping it just gets a little easier and streamlined. But if you need some guidance with that, we've done that in the past. We'd be glad to help you with that, and we'll share with you how you can reserve some time. One thing someone else mentioned, and Cynthia's answer back was about the PowerPoint presentation or the marketing type data. What she's referring to there is becoming interactive. Okay, in the last few years, just like here, 3 years ago, we would not be sitting here on Zoom and talking with all of you. It just opened up all kinds of avenues, and it's made it more completely interactive. And you're able to give us information, we're able to exchange data and link you through using PDF versions. And so you've got to come and help yourself understand how to use that. I mean, when you link, you make sure you use a secure socket layer, SSL, and you're making sure, when you send them to your website, that you got some videos there, that even if it's just a handheld video, they're going to forgive you for that. They don't expect, if you have a custodial company, they don't expect you to be an expert at video making. Okay, that's not what they're asking for. They want to know about your product. They want to see your action, see what's happening. And so it's real live activity, I think it's just as good. If you got the funds to, to spiff it up a little bit, then sure, use that. But if you don't, go ahead and use your iPhone, make the video presentation. You can upload that in just about any website. Give them examples of your product. Give testimonies of your product. Things like that. Become interactive in all of in your one-page capability statement. You can then draw that government into your company as a whole. Give them examples of your product. Things of that nature. What do you think about that, Cynthia? Agree with that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, Mark. That's wonderful. You can hit that again. There's data that goes on this document. Okay. Yes. People, please keep in mind. I'm very, very serious. You can continue to hit that. I'm very serious. You just present the content on your capability statement. In particular, as we talk about these 6 C's of a capability statement, I want you to just present the information that you have. You're the subject matter expert at what you do because you've done it. And whether you've provided it in the federal space or in a major corporation, you could have done it on a collegiate level. It could have been done in the community. It could have been done at a conference. Just know that what you have is valuable and they are looking for you. The biggest problem I find with people is people are afraid to bid. They are afraid to bid on contracts. So these are the 6 C's of a capability statement. It's very important that you understand the company overview. When did the company, when did the company start? Do you have multiple locations? Is it warehoused? Is it a legacy business? These things are very important on your capability statement. You don't have a lot of room to put, so we don't want to overcrowd it. And Mark will show you some samples in a little bit that we've worked on. We've worked on hundreds of capability statements, but your company overview is important. The company information, for an example, your social media platforms, that's important. They need to be able to find you when they're looking for you about your company. Make sure that you're registered in SAMS. Make sure that your Secretary of State information is up to date. Oftentimes people let their SOS run out and they're not even a legal business. And trust me, company agencies are looking, contracting agencies, they have to check and verify these things. So keep your information updated. What is your core competencies? What is it? What's the center of your business? What is it that's your core? It's very important that you understand if you are a janitorial service, we provide janitorial services, meaning, okay, we clean carpet, we clean buildings, we clean whatever needs to be cleaned, we clean. Yeah, she's right. Not everyone likes social media alternatives for being social. But what the government is learning about social media, they've got to be in the now. They have to be able to meet people where they are. She says, when bidding for Fed contracts, does it get easier with practice? Let's see what she said here. Absolutely, it gets easier. We have an amazing individual that we work with that teach you how to properly bid. Tammy's the best at that. So yes, it does get easier. Once you understand your numbers, your data, the content, you rearrange it per the bid. What makes you different? What, on your capability statement, what makes you different? What is it about you? Did your company win an award? one thing I can say that I'm an award-winning because I've won awards, and then I've got special projects that I use and train with that have won first place in the nation with different organizations. It's not exaggerated. It's my truth. It's what made me different. Is I have won several speaking contests, several training contests. Why? That's what makes me different. We have two different types of services. Should both be on the same capability statement? It just depends on it. Mark, you can answer this. It depends on how close they are in skill sets. You wouldn't, sometimes people put NACE codes from grave digging to, plumbing. Well, be careful that you're not all over the place. Mark, I like niche focus. Tell me your story on having multiple things on your case statement.
In the past, it might have been acceptable because it's, the cost of it, preparing it can be a little bit daunting for most companies. But the truth of the matter is now the technology is such that you can change a PDF in just seconds, and that's free software. So it's just, you need to have two different ones. Now let's just say that, for example, if I'm a custodial company, I have a client who does it. I'm a custodial company, but also do coaching, okay, on the side. And I also have somebody who does that, plus they have a hairstylist services. Now, putting all three of those on a capability statement, that just sends a signal to the government that you don't know what you're doing. It basically says, I'm not focused, I'm all over the place. Even if I'm an entrepreneur, I have my hands in a lot of different things. The government doesn't even know that. Whenever I go out and do classification and compensation work, my capability statement that I share with them is classification and compensation work. Whenever I go out and do indirect costing and allocation studies, which I can also do, it doesn't say anything about classification and compensation. It says indirect costing. So the answer to that question is, it can depend for you, but if you got the tools, don't do it. Okay, it's too confusing. And what I want to speak to is there's a question there, and I think you're going into contact information in just a minute. But one of the questions is about SAM and SAM registration. You're gonna find that if you're not clear on your data, you're gonna have problems with it. And this is something as simple as, in fact, a lot of you email us and you've got multiple email accounts. Do you know? I think the average user now has 3 or 4 email accounts around the world. That's the fact. Okay, and you drive us crazy sometimes because we have to try to find you. Well, imagine that on the federal government level. They're not going to mess with it. Okay, so if you go in there and you sign up with one email and then you want to change it to another, that could take weeks and weeks. It just slows down the process. The same thing with your address. Okay, using a post office box versus a street address, you got to be consistent in how you do that. You need to have a physical address, be a legal address. Okay, and then finally, the smallest thing, like my company is GovDirections, LLC, not GovDirections LLC. If I mix that up, because these are all technology driven registration processes, it's going to kick out an exception. And that's going to slow you down for weeks as well. So make sure before you go, as Sharon, I think it's Sharon Scott, she gave you the warning there. Have your data, everything laid out in front of you. It needs to match up. Your registration with your Secretary of State, your contact information with them should be the same thing when you incorporated your company as you're putting in SAM. The government's not going to go out there and try to figure it out for you. Okay, it's not going to happen. And so that's important that you understand that. And that's how you get slowed down. And believe me, when you get slowed down, you really get slowed down, months sometimes. You don't want to have that happen to you. And if you get in that loop, it's almost impossible to get out sometimes. Okay.
That's right.
How about that, Cynthia?
Oh, I think that's great. And I
Your volume, we lost your volume.
You lost my volume? I'm talking. Can you hear me now?
So Cynthia's getting the volume there.
Can you hear me? I can hear you well.
Still lost your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Here.
You can hear you. Okay, maybe I lost your volume. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, they can hear me. So one of the things that we cleared up this week with a client, they had their contact information and they had numbers and letters and first one thing and the other in their email address. And I said immediately to them, you need to buy yourself a professional email address. You need to just go in and reach out to GoDaddy or whatever service that you choose to reach out to. And it's imperative that you take this off of your capability statement. They had numbers and letters and gmail.com and first one thing and the other. And listen, guys, it used to be when you put together a website, because you do need a professional website. They used to would automatically align you with several email accounts, email addresses. Well, they don't do that anymore. So we have to make sure that we're professional, because if you work for Coca-Cola, it's going to say charper@coca-cola.com or coca-cola.usa or whatever email you use. It's really important. She says, so it is okay to put my biz email on my capability statement. What did she say here? Since it's not on the one in SAM, you should go back in SAM's and update. And that's another thing, because Mark made a point earlier. This is a living document. As you win contracts, you're going to add logos of agencies you've won contracts from. You need to make sure that you go in and you keep everything the same with the Secretary of State, with SAM's, with your capability statement on your website. You are that person. Remember, when you're baking a cake, you put all the ingredients out first. This is what you're doing with your capability statement. You do not want to be all over the place. It's a mishandle of you, and you might lose out in business in doing so. Some people are registered with the SBA under a total different email address. People don't change their maiden names. They forget to change their addresses when they move. This is the federal government. They're looking for, as Mark loves to talk about, the clarity and the brevity. And he loves that, and that's true. When you're dealing with the government, make sure your ABCs are in the right place. She says, in the system from Global Entry and Sam said not to change the email address. That is why I continued. That was when you were setting it up. Did they tell you that when you were setting it up? Yes, but now you're set up, correct? So correct. So then you need to update as you set things up. Make sure you're updated. Sam's is I'm telling you, Sam's is changed and it's tricky. And your data needs to be where they can reach you in Sam's, because of course, contracting agencies and companies are looking for you in Sam's registration. So yeah, go back now that it's done. But when you first do things in Sam's, it's difficult when you change the information. And Mark can speak to that. It took him almost a month to get a client's corrections flowing.
Yeah, I would share with you, once you start registration, don't change anything until you get your UEI and your cage code. Okay, nothing should change. And then once you do get those both, and you're eligible for all awards, that indication will come up in your SAM account. Then you can go back in and update, and you can add your registration, for example, for the disaster response registry. If you didn't do it at the beginning, okay, so hopefully you've done it at the beginning. But if anything that you haven't done in the beginning when you first submit it, don't change it at all, period, until you get it approved, unless they tell you something. Okay, so be careful about that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm fully registered and went in today to update my phone numbers and banking information. It created a new registry request with the same UI and cage number. Is this normal? They've changed so much with the UI. I don't know, Mark, what do you say? Is that normal?
Yeah. Well, they'll eventually will drop that off. I think it's somewhat of and it's a flexible bug. I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to call it a bug in their system, but I've done that too, where I've added I went to go in there and change something. I added another entity. They don't want you to do that. They'll come back and say that eventually you get an email. So there's already an entity registered under that UEI. Okay. So don't pay so much attention to that second one, because they'll tell you within SAM that it's in progress. The ones that are in progress, don't mess with those, and unless you really are in progress. Okay, the ones that are approved will be in a separate area. Just so you know that. Okay, so but don't be really concerned as long as you still have the proper one registered. Okay, and you can go back and delete it eventually, but don't delete it just yet until they tell you. Okay, I'm giving SAM registration internally today because that is always unique to you, and you need to be in your account when you're doing that. If you have a question, you can contact us when you're actually there on that. Okay. It's in terms of the emails themselves, I don't think it's imperative to change it. The most important thing with the Secretary of State is that you got your address correct. Okay, I don't know if the email itself is a strong determiner of what's happening. So it's more about your address and your physical address with SAM. But they do need to. You need to still have access to your email. Okay, so because they're going to send you emails to the one you have on file, and if you don't have access to it, then you're in trouble. But whenever you're advertising on the capability statement, we'll try to move back into the capability statement conversation. There, it's also about branding and making sure that you're sending a sign that you've got a company, that you're in this for the long haul. You got a company domain name, and you're not going to Ymail or Hotmail or I think Cynthia, was that your email? That was sexymama@hotmail.com?
No, sir, it was not my email.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
So we kid around on that one, but yeah.
Yeah, Lanice, yes, they're looking for commercial janitorial companies in all parts of the federal government. Yes, the janitorial business is like trucking business. It's forever evolving. Construction's forever evolving. IT. I don't think there's too many services that the government's not looking for. So absolutely, they're looking for commercial janitorial companies in SAM.gov. In fact, the commercial companies are doing very well offering the federal government services. And I say this to those of you who are smaller businesses, learn to partner so that you can get an opportunity to garner past performance and to work with a larger company than yourself for training and coaching. As in absolutely. As in a subcontractor, absolutely. And I used to be afraid to do that because I thought they're going to take my company. They don't want my company. They want a contract. They don't want my company. Trust me.
I think Cynthia, that I contract with. I probably have worked in 34 states now in some 300 plus contracts, and about 80% of those were as subcontractor. Okay, so it's a great way to be at the business. You're setting, a lot of times you're sitting and waiting for them to contact you. And once a prime contractor knows that you're good, that's good, always solid business. They win the business, you do the business, and you make a nice little profit off of it. So that's a great way to go in subcontracting.
Absolutely. Subcontracting is wonderful. Find a mentor protege program that's mandated by the state or the federal government, not one that people create themselves because they don't have governing rules that will protect you. It's very important that you get with the mentor protege company or entity that gives you a covering so that no one can take advantage of you. You're not just a pass through. They're not just using you and it's giving you a little bit and you have to run away. Make sure that you're working with someone that value your skill set and they want to put you to business. A friend says, Mark, answer that. How do you become a subcontractor?
Well, there's a couple of ways of doing it. There's, one way I know how to do it is, for example, I have a local small business enterprise certificate with a county that's close by in my area in Atlanta. And so a lot of times a company is required to come in and include a small business as a part of a larger project. So you can attend those meetings either online or you can attend them in person, have your capability statement ready to go, and you hand that out in the meeting and say, hey, my name is Mark. I'm with GovDirections LLC, and I'm here to serve as a subcontractor with one of you because I have a local small business enterprise certificate. And you'll be surprised at how well the government receives that in general. They want that kind of interaction. The other is to watch the list of folks who show up at the meetings. They're always published online, and you can contact them. They'll ask for their phone number, and that's more unsolicited. The other way is to watch for the awards themselves. We publish those at RFP Delivery and you can just look at just the awards, and it'll show you who's winning. And while you may not be able to subcontract on that particular award, these are the people who know how to win contracts. And so you can reach out to them anyway. Go ahead and get lined up for the next time that they win. Okay. So these are just great ways to go about subcontracting beyond just reaching out to individuals. And I think Cynthia has mentioned the mentor protege relationship as well with SBA. Mm-hmm. Another thing I think you mentioned earlier too, when we're dealing with subcontracting, and I know you have on there, one of the C's is listen to clients that you've worked with and your past performance. Always remember to include that and show that therefore, and even if you're as a subcontractor, but make sure that you you talk about the name of the actual project that you worked on. Sometimes, people will forget that I was on a project because my primary name wasn't the one associated with it, but I was there and I get credit for that. And so I need to make sure that if I'm listing that on my capability statement, that government is aware that they may get contacted or checked into. So make sure you are listing some of those.
There was a question, I can't remember who asked it, but she asked what was a good name for van sprinter delivery services. That's really in the transportation industry. So what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll find NAICS codes that's centered around transportation, and then you will see if there's something that looks for what you're looking for, that match what services you're offering. I love what Lanice and the correspondence between Lanice and the dialogue and Shanda. She says, are you looking for a subcontractor in janitorial? You don't know, she just might be. You might just discovered a partner. So this is what these forums are for, and don't be shy to make yourself known. Don't be shy. Do we need the premium level to see the award information, Mark?
You traditionally do. If anybody is in this room here, reach out to us. We will work with you on that. That's not the primary purpose of the premium, but it is part of it just requires a lot more research, okay, as opposed to the active listing. So please reach out to us and we can help you with that. But the premium side of it, which are pre-solicitations, which basically are upcoming, because all of you, as you know, there's 3 different stages of government contracting. The first stage, and this is part of the bidding part of it, but the first stage is planning. Governments don't do anything without planning. A lot of people are involved in decision-making, and they go through that process in a public space. So you need to be in there early, and that's what's referred to as pre-solicitation or upcoming. And that could be at different stages of the budgeting cycle to the actual planning for a more of an agile environment with technology at different stages, but the RFP is not out yet. And then we have the active stage, and that's when the RFP is on the street. Okay, that means it's competitive. And when you see it, a lot of you think, it's not really competitive, Mark. And I hear that all the time. They're not really going to help me out there. It looks like they just want to work with this company. They want to work with that company. It's just not the truth. If you see the RFP on the street, that means they want a competitive response. Governments have a lot of different methods to go in and actually contract with you without ever going to RFP stage. So they could use that if they really want to work with you. And nobody else, okay? They can do sole source, justification, different types of methods, all levels of government. So when you see the RFP, they want a competitive response. And then the final stage is the award stage, okay? And that's when you got the contract in place, there's going to be an expiration date, but there's also going to be activity during that process. And you got to do a good job, first of all. And you might be working with subcontractors as a part of that, but then there's going to be an expiration and that whole cycle is going to start over. So you can approach that government in different spots. Okay, in different time frames, in different ways. And that's how our presentation of our material at RFP Delivery is made as well. And the most valued part of that, and when it takes the most time, is the pre-solicitation part and getting that information to you where budgets are driven. So when we provide that to you, marked with the word upcoming often.
So there's another interesting question. The answer is currently we haven't, but we can. The question mark is, can we put together a virtual event so they can meet prime contractors? We haven't done that, but I know that we can. That's something that Mark and I would have to discuss. Mark, what do you think about that?
Well, that's worth a discussion. Yeah, with this, learning this technology, you see how we kind of fumbling around with a little bit because this is not our primary. We're not in the movies industry. I think you're more into it than I am, Cynthia. You do radio, but this is a learning process. And certainly, if this is a way I think there are ways you can do meeting rooms and so forth. We'll certainly entertain that. One question I get here, and there's also about, is this a solicited Zoom for a subscription? The answer to that question is no, it's not. About 80% of information in GovDirections and RFP Delivery are completely free, completely complimentary. Our GovSchool channel, completely, it's YouTube Live, completely free. There's not. The subscription requirement is a cooperative research. We provide research as a service. When we gather that information, there is a premium for that. State and local government is where that's primarily at. But the federal government information is completely free with our services. And so we'd share that with you. We are a private sector business solution that's been in place since 1998. Okay. So that's there too.
Jim has a great question. He says, how much is LGBT being identified as a hub? There are many organizations that have a designation for LGBT. So you just have to find out which city, which state list is looking for that designation or is offering that designation, and then begin to fill out the applications for them. But yes, there are definitely opportunities for every sect, literally, Jim, for every sect. Women, LGBT, veteran, you just have to find who is looking for that or offering that. So that's a very good question.
Yeah,
City
and
of
that's
Atlanta
that's
does
the
something
yeah.
too.
That
Go
is
ahead, Mark.
true. That's a point to make. The set aside program is at the federal government level, and basically set aside means if you have to have this certification assigned this NAICS code in order to participate. It's a limited audience. Then we do have that at certain levels in government. I think New Jersey does that, and a couple of others, but it's somewhat limited at the state and local government level, which uses a preference system. The preference system, driven primarily by the what's referred to as the Richmond decision, where essentially governments have to prove there's a historic situation where a group, a sector has been disadvantaged. And so governments have to go to an elaborate process to do that. So they tend to shy away from it. But in the preference system, everybody can bid. And then they may add some extra points to your bid based on the evaluation criteria on that sector that they're trying to address. And you see that in different disadvantaged business enterprises in different communities across the country. The truth of the matter is most local governments have a difficult time getting anyone to respond. So they don't use that as often, because once you start limiting your audience, then you're basically causing a bigger problem for yourself. And right now, governments are having a hard time. There's some 50,000 active listings at GovDirections and RFP Delivery today, which is RFP Delivery is the geospatial tool that we have using some AI to kind of really help you hone in. But they, I would say right now, 200 to 300 of those just today alone are rebids. No one bid on them. Okay, so it's important that you understand that.
Yeah, they rarely meet their percentages, and when they're looking for women-owned, they rarely meet those qualifications. So if you have anything that uniquely identifies and qualifies you, you use it. Whatever it takes to win, you use it, as long as it's
That's right.
legal. I'm telling you, as long as it's legal, don't you dare not take advantage of a code or an application. There's no shame in it at all. Anything they got for women, I'm going after it. So yes.
Yeah. And so what about the different versions? Let's finish up this. I'm going to show some actual examples. Are you ready to do that now? Or are you?
Yes. Go ahead.
So let's, we have different types of capability statements, the targeted, and then there's also the general, and then the source of salt with the different ways you approach it. So let's just show them some examples of the actual documents here.
Sure.
In that we have some of you have driven to our flip through. We actually show you some of those, and let me go back through. I want to start at the beginning there. I was making sure, and I would just point out that while we serve you and we provide technical assistance in this area, GovAdvice is a micro consulting platform where we bring you together with subject matter experts like Dr. Harper, who can help you with assistance in areas that you may want to hire them for. I would also point out that we also teach you through GovSchool. So do it yourself versus having someone like a gig worker help you with that. Sort of the Uber driver driving to that first contract. That's what I like to say. But you'll see that whenever where she's working with them or our team, we have graphic designers and others who help you. Then it's all about pulling out information. You can see there's different stages of those. And I'll just kind of flip through some of these. But each of those should go in and really kind of speak to you and tell you exactly what that company's doing. And you see there's a combination of information as well as graphics, imaging, using color scheme. Maybe you can talk about some of that as I'm dropping through these, Cynthia.
Sure. Did you put some of those up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you not see those? Are they not up?
No, we don't see them. All we see is
okay, sorry.
Yes, it's so important that you understand color scheme and imaging and what you want their eyes to focus on. It's important that the logo is positioned in the right place so that it'll grab their attention. If you look at this one right here, all in safety, you can tell it's a safety capability statement. Look at what they're offering. You see the safety hats, the gear. It's not difficult to understand. They're a certified WBE company. They have another certification at the bottom. So it's important that you put together certain images, certain styles to draw that contracting agency in so that you will win. We've had so much fun working with some of these companies. Look, Cloud Exodus, that you know what they do. UV Medical, med supply companies. You can look at them and tell, and their past performance. They've listed 3 government agencies in the bottom of those who they've done business with. They're well on their way. I can promise you by now, this company has probably done a lot more business since we started creating that capability statement.
Yeah, this is one that where the imaging really, I think, helps stands out when using the graphic logo as opposed to a word. Okay, and they know this sort of really helps me understand that this is medical solutions. In the people who are in medical and fire and safety, they would see those and they would recognize those.
Absolutely, Rachel, you can. Whether it was the community, the church, the collegiate, at a conference, absolutely. So yeah, look at all these wonderful images. Look at this is Get Healthy vending. But one thing I want to remind all of us is that it's awesome that we have these great capability statements, but if we don't use them, if we don't share them at industry days, if we don't send them to, we're not working to work them, we just have a nice document in our files. They must be worked. It's imperative that they're worked, that they're sent out. As an educator can past performance be the school district? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can also, Stephanie, go back into the school district and see what government contracts that they have that they are actually looking for. You'd be a prime candidate to win.
I'm seeing this one question also regarding the official email and not so official, side, where there is one popular one where they send you an email saying you have to place you're missing your capability statement in SAM. There is no place to put your capability statement in SAM. Okay, in SAM you will list your capabilities. That's in the small, and then that's also tied to the small business dynamic search system. And so you want to be able. That's more of a written account, maybe your executive summary. And there's parts where you can go in there and list your past performance. And that's when you do your update that you can put that in there. And that's related to whether or not you want to be listed in the small business dynamic search system, which I'll show you. I like to do interactive learning, but if you're not familiar with that system, you can just type in SBA dynamic small business search, and they'll pull it up. They're actually going through an update. Hopefully they're not doing that right now. So I can actually go in and search this system and find some other companies I might want to contract with. And I want to go in there and find myself, find my own company, and make sure it speaks to what I want to do. And there, when you do that and you see the details, it'll talk about how long you've been in business, whether or not you take credit cards, whether or not you're 8A, whether or not you're HubZone. And this is a great way to tell sort of the add-ons that can help you win contracts. They're not required. You're not required to have a capability statement. You're not required to have a website. You're not, these are things that help you. Okay, these are things that help you win. They're worth it. But we all have budgets. We all have to know that, and we can only spend so much. We got to be prepared for that. But know that the more you got this filled in, this detail, whenever a government goes to search for a small business in the area, they may want to reach out to you. This is where they're going. Okay, and you want to make sure your listing in here is correct, and it should match what you got in your SAM system. Okay, going back to some examples there in the flip through. And just see some of these as you ask your questions. I like your questions. I really like this one. This is one of the better ones that y'all did. It's a landscaping, and really just I knew that when I saw that core competencies, past performance, contact information, executive summary. Easy to read. Okay. Make sure you don't have extra words in there. I'm big on that. Accuracy, brevity, clarity. You said that early. If, you know, I always write a sentence, strip out every word you don't need. There's actually a great little app I found to do that, where you kind of go in and you choose the words you really don't need in a sentence. And that will help you in that process. You know, we don't expect you to be a technical writer at the same time as being the best custodial firm that's out there, but you got to get the information out there. Okay. If you're not familiar, there's a great little book called, I think it's called Skunk's Elements of Style. Search that on the web. If you're not familiar with it, just do Elements of Style. And it's a great little book that's in Amazon or freely available, I think, on the web these days, but it's Williams J. Strunk. Okay. And this book here is the best. I give it to everybody I know who graduates from high school and they go off to college. They should have already got it before college, but if they don't, it's just a really useful tool to help you understand how to write better and making sure your words speak the way you want them to in the presentation of information. Okay.
Mark,
and I just get stressed enough to do that.
Would you put the DSP link inside the chat so that they know how to get the dynamic?
Oh, that there. But here's the Strunk and White. Okay. And here's the small business dynamic search system. Okay. Right here. And that there is an easy to use system. They are updating it as we speak. Okay. So they may go down here shortly. And so a lot of us know that, so we're waiting to see what happens with it. Okay. But they've been opened up saying they're going to do it for months now. It ain't quite happened. But one day they're going to do it. I know it's going to happen. Just count on it. It's taking a little bit of time though. But that system there has every small business in it, and you're meant to use it in order to meet with each other. Okay. The capability statement here, that's a nice one, nice colors, not using too many colors, but color. Okay. 2 or 3 for your primary branding, but then the imaging doesn't really count. Okay. But make sure it should also, and I think, flow with your website. If you have a website, it should, whenever I step through this, I should see the same sort of branding. And I'm not lost with that. So if I have an image on my document, it's helpful to have the same image on your website, you know, so that you're working through that. It's another one. Medical supplies. I like it. Sticks out that Nate's codes really works for firm 6. That's one of our clients. We really like them. Here we go. Different styles. Any more questions as we go in? You've all hung with us, all 87 still here, even an hour and a half into it. So we thank you for coming today and asking. Oh, this is here, Copian's Kitchen. This is a newer one that's out there. Here's a nice one someone sent to us. And not just us, we publish these. So if you have a capability statement and you won't, I frequently at our site get requests from governments. So send it to me, I'll place it in our file, and then I send it out. Somebody's looking for transportation, I send them the transportation ones. They're looking for custodial companies, I send them custodial. These are more popular ones. Beverage and food, still there. I'll also outline, regardless of whether or not we do it or you do it, it's still going to be broadcast when we send it out to government agencies. Our goal is to connect you. Okay.
That's so good looking. I love that.
This one here, yeah, it's what, and I don't have some of the ones just recently that our newest graphic design Jessica's doing for us. She's doing it, by the way. She's helping us out with that. It's appropriate. Always, yes, include a QR code. Yes, go ahead. Do that. If you've got that sophistication and knowledge, to go ahead and include it. I saw that in one yesterday as well. But whenever you do that, make sure that it's linking to a location that's working. Okay, so don't forget that. And it needs to be a secure link. Okay, a government, if I click on one of these and it's not HTTPS, it's going to give me a warning, and a government agent's not going to go past that warning. Okay, so you're wasting your time with a non-secure link. It's important that you recognize that. Okay. Notice here on this one here that information is pending. You can go ahead and list them, but then be prepared to, edit that. And nowadays with Adobe, you can just click on it and edit it, okay, and take off the pending when you receive it. It's perfectly fine. Okay.
And I think that is such an award-winning capability statement. Though they don't have it, they've started their process. I think this is so amazing to see people that are forward-coming. I love it when they have pending certifications.
Yeah,
I really do.
And the other thing I think the other question is, I don't have a lot of customers, or I don't have any customers. should I do a capability statement? And your short answer to that is yes, yes, yes. Sell yourself. And all of these things we've talked about today, I always tell folks the easiest way to write whenever you're doing these things is to pretend like you're in a grocery store and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I know that you started your own company, you're trying to win government contracts. What is it that you're doing? And the description about your company that you give somebody in that 1 second response, that's how you start. Write it out. Okay. Even just, talk to yourself on the iPhone and let it just write it out for you. We got AI nowadays. It could do a lot of things that's available for you, but do it that way. That's the easy way to start your writing, and then complete it and edit it a little bit later. But ask yourself, what is your core competency? Tell yourself what it is. What is your past performance? What is your differentiator? What makes you different? Why do I want to hire you instead of somebody else? And whatever that short answer is, that's your answer, and put that in there. Okay. And don't overstate it. It's not necessary. Use bigger fonts, as I tell people. If you don't have a lot of information, use bigger fonts. It'll help you out. Okay. If you have a lot of information, you use a little bit smaller fonts. Okay. Don't make it too hard to read.
Mark, will this presentation be recorded on YouTube? We got a couple of
questions. It is. As soon as we're off, it's going to be all of our mistakes and everything will be live again. And you can go in there and you click. And I just would point out, in this process, in fact, QR codes, there's one right there. If you want to learn more about our services, you can use the QR code and it will drive you to our system. And so this is our solicitation. If you do need some assistance, because you attended today, you can use that coupon code there, that discount code, and save 20% for assistance using that link. Now, when you go online, at YouTube, you'll come to, at RFP delivery, just as a reminder, when you first come here. And I saw some others where you're talking about keywords and how to find, like if you're selling vans or you provide a van service or transportation, the systems, we have NAICS codes for everything. We have NIGB commodity codes, but we also have simple ways to go in and search. So I could actually go in and just type in van transportation and see what happens. Okay. It's Boolean search technique. So I can use different words, do combinations of words, and then there's no any they're found for that. So I step back. Okay. And doesn't mean they're not bids. It just means that those specific keywords are not together there. Okay. And so I might want to come back in and then use that more process of doing a combination. So either word can appear this time. And so when it comes in, it'll show you that the details are there for you. And then you can pop through those. Federal system, completely free. Okay. In our pricing structure. So you have access to all of that data. And just remember that it is a geospatial tool and we're showing the information to you where the bids are actually at. Okay. And you're able to drill into it and then pull into the data. And here's box transportation services. For total small business set aside, readily available for you right now. When you log through, you log in and you see the details. Okay, and so that's actually there for you. Let me just show you that whenever I log in. See what happens here. Okay, demo. For those of you still with us, I thank you for coming today, and we appreciate being able to serve you.
Absolutely.
And your account here, it's completely free to set up and use. And when we get in here, we're going to drive you to some basic information. This is in Puerto Rico, actually, and you can see the link, see where it's at out of Jacksonville. You can go and save PDF. You can actually save it or capture it in your folder. You can view the bids. Main goal, though, is to get you to leave us and go work with that government. Okay. And when you're in your account, you can always get to your account by clicking the logo or clicking any human figure and go straight to your member dashboard. We'll give you some details. YouTube is your best friend now. Okay. You can go here. And you can click at youtube.com, and we're going to be live right now. We're talking about it right now, and you can watch it live, but it'll be here right afterward. The videos are recorded. They're point and click. We provide all this content to you at no charge. Okay. And you can spend hours and hours. You can do, instead of watching Netflix tonight, you can come in here and watch the Gov Directions channel. How about that?
And Miss Rachel McAdams, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite as good as Lost, but it's good. And so that's who we are. We really appreciate you coming today. Any more questions? I'm seeing a lot of questions still. Is there anything we really failed to answer today that you want to have? You can pop online right now live and ask us a question by audio. We'd certainly appreciate it. You can tell, Cynthia and I have worked together for years now. We really like to do this. We like talking with you and chatting with you, and it really serves what our goal is to help you out as a company.
what I said regarding the pending certifications, it's very forward thinking for you to note that if you're WOSB or LGBT and you're working on a cert, that you list that it's pending, so that they will know that you understand that being in that certain designation eliminates you from a major pool, puts you in a smaller pool. So I always suggest to people, after you get set up, begin to work on your certifications so that you will have something that will give you a standout, because there's 1,000 people entering the government market today. And if you're certified as a veteran-owned small business, that doesn't hurt at all. You know, whatever certification you might acquire. That's all I said, which is important, very important. So yeah.
Any more questions today?
Joanne had a question. She says, what designates that some RFPs are upgrade status?
That would depend on you. This is the, we are in business. We are a business on seeking to serve you in this space by providing research as a service. There's different pricing structures here. If you want one state, you get access to all levels of information, local, state, and federal. Federal government, regardless of service level, which is local, regional, or national, is completely free. Okay, so you can look at federal listings, no charge to it. State and local is where we add our most value. We believe our federal adds value too. The layover is actually a really good layover. It updates you. The local and state, we use a cooperative research team to gather bid. You basically have a team of 25 individuals working on your behalf to gather information, and they're pulling that data to you daily. There's some 5,000 calls for bids and proposals every day, about 1.5 billion a year. We've been doing this since 1998. Okay, we have about 116,000 companies who work with us, work through us in trying to track listings. And so it's so when you register, you're matched to those. At federal government, you will not be prompted for an upgrade. Local and state, you will. Okay, if you have our local and state service, then if you try to look at a bid that's upcoming, a pre-solicitation bid, and you can find those just simply in our system with a, a lot of times you can just go in with the word upcoming and see them. But these are marked, and they're marked with a right here on that side there. It's called intelligence, and you would see that. So none here. But if let's just see what I find, I'm going to search upcoming, and when I go in and search that, okay, I'll see that I will probably see some that are pre-solicitation level. These are bids that are not yet public. Okay, there's an in-depth research to actually go in and track that information. It requires teams working just to specifically read budgets, going through and finding those type listings early on. So for example, right now, local governments are looking at new budgets in July 1. So in order to get ready for that, they're releasing their budgets right now, and they're talking about it in public meetings. So we can go in and tell you when there's going to be a new playground if you sell, for example, a playground equipment. So that way you can get in there and market yourself in more traditional marketing, as opposed to going and waiting for an RFP to be written. Oftentimes you're going to have your RFP, a sample one to hire you, already written. If you don't have that, you should think about writing one. Okay, I have one. I give it to governments who think about hiring me. Okay, and help them out. Don't make them reinvent everything. So then you go in there, if somebody's looking for new merry-go-round equipment and you sell merry-go-round equipment, you want the specs written towards your company. It helps you. Okay, and that's a good way to market yourself. And you just send it to that company. You know that they've already talked about it, and that's why you might be prompted for an upgrade. Okay.
Mark, where do I register for contracts in Georgia? Are you part of our business intelligence? Who sent us that question?
So let me share with you, because I'm getting just two questions here about registration. First of all, your federal registration, if you were prompted to pay $40.99, that's a scam. You're not, okay. I'm not, wait, let me back up. That word's too hard. Okay. It's somebody potentially adding value for you, but you don't necessarily need that value. Okay, let me say it that way. SAM.gov is completely free. There's no charge. Okay. And and you get the same, right. Before we finish today, I'll probably have, by the end of the day, I'll have 5 calls from Karen, Karen is somebody who's trying to get me to go in there and do the PPP thing that was passed 2 years ago. I don't know, but that's the kind of call it is. It's not, it's just generic. So don't play with that. The government's not going to reach out to you and ask you for money. at all on this, so don't worry about it. And the other part of that is, where do you register at? In Georgia or whatever, you don't have to register anywhere. Okay, your SAM is a registration because that's required in order for you to be in the accounts payable system for the federal government. If you want to work for the state of Georgia, or if you want to work for the city of Atlanta, or you want to work for Fulton County, if you're in Georgia, these are county names, you SAM in your own area, then when you go to bid and you see a bid that you're interested in, they're going to walk you through that when they award you the bid. Okay, they may require you to have a license to do business in the state. That's going to be with the Secretary of State. Most of the times we only have to register with that license with one state, and every state accepts it. Okay, occasionally you are required, and they'll tell you that in the RFP. But don't go around registering with there. It's just a waste of time. And one of the bid wing rule things I always tell you, if you get presented to a third-party site, this is where a government is basically using the software that an agency, a company provides, and then they go through and they tell you to register for free, and then you give them all your information, and then they call you and suggest you got to pay them to get access to something else. That is a waning process. It's not really, it's sort of frowned upon now by state legislators. Some of them are requiring governments not to do that. In fact, every state requires it to be freely available in some capacity. And so know that you can certainly, they sometimes add value and for notification purposes, but for you to go in and register and pay $25 for every single local government, that's just not, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially in the fact that most governments will only hire you once in every few years. And in that, it's a roll of dice. So it's a waste of your money. That's when you get bid wings. Okay. You're just throwing money away. So don't do it. Okay. And I guess another rule is, if anybody in the call sends something with you ending in 9, that's, whenever I go into, I think it said REI, if I see 9, I know I'm getting a good deal. But anytime else, I don't think I'm getting a good deal. I think I'm getting taken. So be careful about that. Okay. I'm just speaking straight up to you on that. I certainly appreciate that criticism, Jacques. I'm sorry that happened to you, so please feel free to give me a call personally. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm at 800-492-8523, and I'll be glad to help you in any way. But this is a voluntary service, so if it's not for you, it's just not for you. I appreciate that. We allow anybody to come on this channel. What are the standard bid costs in your industry? Yes. In fact, our award system is a great way to do that. I would share with you that usaspending.gov, okay? And we do a class on how to use this. I think you'd like to use it as well, Cynthia. But it's a great tool for you. Yeah, you can go in. It's freely available for anybody, okay? You go to usaspending.gov. I'll drop that in the chat box. Everybody in the meeting. There we go. And here we go. And when you go here, you can find what the standard bid costs are in your industry. Okay. You go in and you actually type in under the award search. Advanced. Go in, drop in. It's really easy to use. There's no reason for you to go in anywhere else. It's completely free to use. Type in your industry. Let's just say I want to know about let's say tobaccos. Okay, I sell tobacco. I want to know current pricing. I also want to know what people are paying. I also want to know really the marketplace in Georgia. Okay, start off with US. This is all over the globe because federal government spending money everywhere. Okay, there we go. And then I can add my filters. Okay. And then I can submit the search, and then it'll show me 72,000 responses. That's too many responses. Okay. And I'll update my filter real quick. Did something wrong. If you find that happen, you get in a big database. Okay. You want to go down and narrow it down. And that way I narrowed it down too much. Let's go broaden it out a little bit. And maybe I don't want to just limit it to Georgia. Maybe I want to look at all states. Okay. Add the filter. Thank you. That's much, much better. Thank you, Jacques. Make sure that's okay. I'm like, believe me, I don't like to hear we don't serve our customers. That makes me a little angry. We want to make sure we are, and it just isn't a practice. Yeah. So that vacuum is giving me 2 limit. Let me just back up with truck so I can make an example. Okay. The word has to appear. You don't want to, when you're doing filtering, just know that it's always a situation where, there we go. Now that you don't want to filter yourself too much. And this is going to show me every truck transaction over a long period of time. But so I want to go back in and sort it, and I can download that. And then I can draw into each of these contracts, the price that was actually paid. Okay. It's an easy to use system. You do have to get used to it. You can download the data. Okay, over here on the right hand side, and then you can manipulate it. Even still 31,000 results are just a little bit too much. Okay. And so you want to limit yourself just a little bit more whenever you're working with data. To be honest with you, when you get this kind of a data and you're looking at 10 to 15 results, that's enough. Okay. And you can get where the pricing structure is at in any given time. We do price research training. You can register for that. Okay. And how to do that in your area today. Looking at questions here. Still got a very large audience. Any more final questions? I do appreciate your time today. And here we go. And when you go to GovSchool, we'll go back to that startup where we started at, the classes that we have coming up. We have different classes, and be glad to reach out to us at any given time. Are listed here. Most of these are completely free. I have a class that starts tomorrow. If you're interested, give us a call. This is an 8-week series. It's 8-hour classes in a row. It's really how to work with government. Okay, we teach you each of these. We also have it in a Netflix version where you can watch 8 hours on a streaming service. You can see it, and you don't have to sit in the classes. Just reach out to our staff, and we'll be glad to send you a link to that if you just tell you we're in this class today. We have a mini boot camp on Tuesday, and this is telling you all the essentials that you really need to know to focus in on. This is my favorite one we do. We call it Bidwinked, and we don't want you to get taken advantage of. Okay, I use this as a little symbol there. And then write the right RFP response. And this is my favorite. Tammy does a great job with this.
She does a great job. 10 Toes Cleaning, I've reached out to you. I don't know, it keeps saying that you're not available. I'm putting Mark's email in there, and I put mine in there, and it says that you're not in this meeting. So Mark, maybe you can reach out to 10 Toes Cleaning. They are reaching out, but it continues to say that they're no longer part of the meeting. Maybe we've outgrown our numbers or something. But hey, guys, thank you so much for everything. We will definitely put this video up. Mark, you're the best to work with. You are a wealth of information. Just a here. She says, I'm here. Let's see. Let's try this one more time. Yes, this has been fun.
Yeah. Thank you all. The it's available as soon as we get offline. The telephone number there is available to you. You can call us and you can schedule a time. You can ask to speak to me directly. The reason I'm having so many technical difficulties, I'm in a room today that is designed for this. Apparently not so much as it should have been designed for it. But I'm not available this afternoon. But you can call tomorrow. I'll be here all day tomorrow and be glad to talk with you. You can also book time. It says here, request a demo. When you click on that, it does give you some other options for requesting time with us. You can watch the video of how to use our services, but you can talk with Connor or myself. I'm here. I'm one of the founders. I talk to all of our members. Anytime you have a question, you got a complaint too, I'm here to listen to it. Feel free to do that. Okay. And I'll be glad to try to help you with those questions. If you have some specific items that you'd like to talk about, they're also listed here. And while you may see sometimes, with price research, this is actually helping you in price research. So it's a little bit different, technical assistance. And the same with Cynthia and Dr. Harper. If you have a question about the capability statement, and she's here available to assist you in that process. And I really do encourage you to consider that service. It's a great service. So everybody have a great afternoon, and thank you for coming. I don't see anything. Thank you, Cynthia. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.